to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, you Road to Growth listeners. Today I have Alinka R, and I'm not going to say the last name because I know I'm going to butcher it. I'm so bad when it comes about last names, and I'm not going to do it to you, Alinka.
I'll do it. Rutkowska. Excited to be here.
Thank you. So you're the CEO of Leader Press, and it's I mean, kind of doing a deep dive into it. It's a great idea. I mean, basically 10 to 15 hours is one of the plans you offer, or a couple of the plans, where you can basically put together a book for an individual and I guess get them a bestseller, like it's guaranteed.
Yeah, that's it. All we need is an entrepreneur with a book idea, and we can help turn that into a best-selling book in about 15 hours of your time. And we'll get it into bookstores, into brick and mortar stores, because we have distribution with Simon & Schuster. That's one of the largest publishers in the US. And we can also get the books on bestseller list, either Amazon or Wall Street Journal or USA Today. You know, the campaign will depend on your goals, and we can make that happen.
Wow, that's impressive. Well, we'll dive into that a little bit later, but more about you, I guess. So, I mean, you first started, it sounds like, for yourself, right? To build your brand, and then kind of veered into this avenue, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So let's talk about a young Alinka. Who was a young Alinka? Was she a writer? Was she a entrepreneur? Who was that? Who was that person?
How young are we talking about?
Huh? Well, talk young. I mean, sometimes people bring it all the way back to like teenagers. Some people bring it back to college. Some bring it back, or university, I guess. Some bring it back later. So, I mean, when you just say younger, I mean, how would you describe a young you?
I guess I could go as young as elementary school, where I now see that I had the entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was a school newspaper. There was only one, and I didn't like it very much. And so I thought, how about we give them some, we create some competition here and create our own school newspaper. So I really liked the idea of writing the articles. And then, I was in elementary school, so the computers just started, coming in for general use. And I really enjoyed the typing experience, the fonts, the layout, printing it out. My parents are university professors, so they had, all the equipment at home. I could print A4 papers out, then I could stitch it all together. I print like 50 or 100 copies and distribute it at school and get paid. That was my favorite part. But then really quickly I discovered that other kids would come to me and say, hey, can I write something for the paper? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's less work for me. So they started writing articles and other, elements of newspaper, whatever goes into a newspaper. And it was my little business at school. So that was, I mean, now I run a publishing house, and it's pretty similar. I mean, I don't actually stitch the papers together, but it's editorial and it's entrepreneurial. So you could see that in me at a very young age.
Okay, so elementary school. Wow. So why you dislike the current paper that they had at that time that made you say, I need to do that? Was it a negativity there or a positivity on your end? I mean, where was that mindset coming from?
I thought, why are they the only ones to distribute what they think? Like, I have my opinions. I don't agree with them. I want to, show people what I think they should be focusing on or opening up their minds to. I think it was like ideological.
So how did your parents play a factor into the decision? Was it, okay, I don't like what they're saying? Did they give you the idea, or was it all you?
They were very supportive. And my mom especially was very supportive. So she would help and say, oh, how about you create this section or that section? Maybe a contest, maybe some jokes. I was like, I'm not good at jokes. Well, your friends could be. And so, yeah, she encouraged it a lot. And I think that's important to have that support system, whether you're at school or whether you're an entrepreneur.
Well, okay, now you're in elementary school. How long did this keep going for? This business that you're building?
I don't remember. About 2-3 years for sure.
Okay, and then did you extend it when you got into like university, or what happened next after that?
No, I didn't extend it. I always did some type of jobs, but mostly like helping other kids with their schoolwork, that type
Okay.
of stuff. So
Okay.
it wasn't particularly entrepreneurial, it was one-on-one, but I always liked my independence and my own money. Even though my parents always supported me, I still wanted to say, I'm going to do this because I want to, and I don't need to ask you, for permission. But I was a good kid. I didn't use it for some weird purposes. I'd use it to go on vacation or go abroad and study a foreign language. So I think it was a matter of independence. I have the freedom to do what I want to do.
Now, after schooling, kind of what happened next? You're making money helping kids with their work, your colleagues, and then did you go to university? What happened after that?
I still continued that for a little bit, and then I had to stop because it wasn't feasible anymore. I focused a lot on my studies, and then towards the end of university, I found an internship at a multinational corporation abroad, which for me abroad was Italy. And that was just so exhilarating to me because it was Royal Dutch Shell, and it's just a dream come true. That's everything I ever wanted to do. And I mean, I was in love with the idea, and I was in love with the experience at first as well. So that wasn't particularly entrepreneurial. It was more, businessy. That's what I studied to do. So I was in the corporate world for a while.
Was that your intentions, just to make a living, or was it to go up the ranks, or what was your idea?
To go up the ranks.
Okay.
I wanted to go up the ranks. I started as an intern, and there were these fast track programs in various corporations, and somebody advised that this is the best way to actually climb the corporate ladder. So I applied to these various programs, and I got accepted to Whirlpool. And I was really excited about that. I had like 3 different positions, and the aim of this program was to grow future leaders of the business. But after 3 years, I left. So the plan didn't work.
Why did you leave?
Well, I left because they invested so much in me. I did several courses, periods abroad. There was just so much investment into people in these programs. I left because after I did the program, they put me in well, not too bad of a position. I was working directly with the vice president of operations, so a pretty big deal. But as this was coming to an end, I was looking to do something else, something that I enjoyed doing, and they just kept pushing me to go and interview internally for positions that I didn't want. And that kept on going for a while. I said, I don't want this position. And they would say, you go interview anyway. You don't know if you want it or not. And so that was going on for a while. And there was just such a big disconnect between my vision of, what I could do and the reality of, this is your slot. This is your box. This is what you could potentially be responsible for and nothing else. At a certain point, I just managed to leave and even got paid to leave. So that was pretty neat at the time.
Well, when you said you had an idea of what you wanted to do you recall what that idea was?
Yeah, at the time, I was really into the Six Sigma stuff. So like improving processes. For example, in factories where there's waste, how to improve those processes, but not necessarily in fact. I mean, it could be also in offices. Like there's just so much waste in these offices. I'm not going to go into details, but there's a lot you can improve and optimize. And they didn't want me to do that. Even though there was a position that was not being filled, they said, well, we're not filling it right now, but I saw it was vacant. And, this just continued this, my dissatisfaction, and they're sort of trying to forcibly put me somewhere I didn't want to go. And so I decided, contrary to my father's ideas, I decided to leave.
Do you think if they would have gave you that position at that company, you'd still be there today?
I think so, probably. It would just happen later.
Well, now, talking about that, your father basically was saying to probably stay with the company. What was that conversation like, and what was your kind of strong-mindedness to say, no, I need to do something else?
Well, the conversation was, he would say, you know how many people would kill for your job? That was what he was saying. And I knew he was true, but I told at one of those job interviews that I didn't want to go to, I told my potential boss, because he said, so, why do you want this position? I said, I don't want this position. In fact, if I got it, I think a part of me would die every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's what I said in his face. And then I go back to HR, and HR is like, yeah, so he thinks you're skilled enough, but he's has some doubts about your motivation. I'm like, oh, some doubts?
Well, were you not afraid of getting fired, getting let go, and going?
No, I couldn't really get fired because I was in Italy, and the contract that I have was I was not fireable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty neat. But then we came to an agreement where they paid me to leave.
And then they paid you to leave, and what was the next plan? Did you already have a plan in place? Because it sounds like you were done with them, and you had an idea of where you wanted to do or where you wanted to go. So did you have a plan in place what you're going to do next?
Yeah, I started writing a book while I was still there, and I self-published it. And that book brought me in royalties more than my corporate salary.
Wow.
So that was also a reason for me to leave. I thought, I could do it on my own. I don't need you guys.
What was that first book about?
It was a self-help book that I don't really talk about anymore. It was my first book, a little bit of my internal journey. But it was pretty well received. I had marketing background because I studied marketing and management, and as an intern, I was in the marketing department. So, and also a little bit trial and error, I was able to market it pretty well. So I know now that it's naive to think you can live off of the royalties of one book for the rest of your life. But at the beginning, it is so exciting, and the revenue coming in was motivation enough for me to leave and try to figure things out on my own.
Did you feel at that time when writing? Because I think a lot of people, maybe not to that degree, but they have an imposter syndrome. Right? Saying, oh, I don't know enough about this, so why can I teach this, or why should I tell this? Was there ever a thought, or when you're writing that self-help book, that, well, maybe I don't have enough information about it, or did you feel really confident in it?
I don't think I suffer from imposter syndrome, probably the opposite. I think I can sell myself pretty well. One of my supervisors told me that, and when I was still in Warple, like, you can really do good marketing of yourself, is how he told me this in Italian, and this is my translation. I was like, I can market myself. I like to learn, and by writing the book and exploring those topics, I was learning a lot. So that gave me a lot of satisfaction. I'm just a lifelong learner. Anything I can learn that interests me gives me just a lot of satisfaction. So, I've referenced certain sources or inspiration, so I didn't feel like an imposter because I said, this guy says so and so, and my experience is this and that. And so I wasn't really inventing anything or pretending I knew anything I didn't. I just explaining things how I saw the world.
When you talk about the idea that confidence in yourself and selling yourself, do you know where that comes from, or have you thought about that?
Yeah. I think at university, they molded us into pretty confident creatures. Because I went to the top business school in Poland, and I remember the dean on the very first day, you come in, you're pretty, you don't really know what to expect. You're pretty green. And the dean says, in this university, we don't form, or we don't shape employees, we shape employers. And this was like the first thing he said. It was never my intention to become an employer or to become an entrepreneur when I went to university. I was looking into climbing the ladder in the corporate world, but they just stuck with me. Like one of the first things you hear, there were, I don't know, 500 or 1,000 people in this huge room. And those were the things they were saying. They were really telling us how amazing we are. I don't know if that was part of their um, culture. Another phrase they would say was, "We," as in the the students and alumni, have always ruled, or ruling and is ruling in this country, in this country. And I was like, okay. So they just keep feeding. They keep feeding us with these things, and hearing that for 5 years, I sort of started believing it.
What I mean, and I guess it's similar to affirmations and confidence. Do you have any children by chance?
Yes, too.
How do you weigh that out of building confidence in a young one, or even in your employees, like and also have them to self-realize and be okay with failing? Because I guess the more confident you are when you do fail, it's probably harder to kind of get back up. So how do you balance that out?
Uh, I think it's just a philosophical approach of recognizing that success doesn't, success is not the opposite of failure. Like, success comes because of failure. Like, failure is part of success. That's what I want to say. Okay. So, just realizing that I started horseback riding this year. So it's been like 8 months, and I took part in a competition at home, and it didn't go very well. So I was very disappointed, and for the first time, they saw me pretty disappointed, and they're like, "Oh wow, you're human! Like, I didn't know you're human, because you seem like detached, and like nothing can hurt you." But it was a huge disappointment, and then I had to sort of brainwash myself, saying, okay, so what am I going to learn from this? Those that won didn't learn anything. I, however, learned to next time do this, do that. And I can see my son playing a game on his iPad. He's 6 years old. Actually, I downloaded Prince of Persia because that was something I was playing like 30 years ago. And whenever he lost, like, he was really, really aggressive, trying to throw things around, completely disappointed. And I was trying to explain to him, well, it's okay. So next time when you see this obstacle, think, what can you do that didn't work? So I was, trying to explain to him to learn from his little failures. I don't know if that sunk in, because he was, crazy screaming that he lost. But then the next time he tried, he won. So he was happy. And I think if you, keep saying that after maybe the 100th time, it will sink in, and they will understand that failure is part of success.
So have confidence and understand that failure allows you to get closer to success.
Yes.
What now? Going back to your first book, what happened next? So you put your first book out there, you're getting the royalties. Are you just enjoying it, just sitting back? I'm making good money, or is it I need to do another book? What was the plan at that point?
I like to do stuff, entrepreneurial stuff. And so at that time, I wanted to have kids. So I decided I'm going to write a children's book. And then that turned into children's book series, picture book. Then I started marketing those books, going to book fairs. I got a deal with a Chinese publisher. They bought licensing rights for the whole series, 15 books. Translated that, published in China. I got a really great check for that. And then I had kids, and at a certain point, as I was doing all the marketing, more and more authors were coming to me and saying, "Hey, can you do this for my books, like what you're doing for yourself?" Oh, wow. And so I started developing some like services to help them, like one-on-one, mostly like one-on-one. I was doing a lot for them, and probably not charging a lot at the time. So like my first clients got a really great deal, like unheard of. And that went on for a while. I was trying to put like digital courses and some more one-on-one, a group thing, a summit. I was learning the digital marketing thing. Mm. And then at a certain point, I came across Dean Jackson, and he was putting together a mastermind in London in 2017. And I remember I went there, and he asked us a question. He said, if money wasn't an issue, like the price of the service, what could be the highest value thing that you could offer to your clients? And that's, I remember, the people that were coming to me asking for help with their books were often terrible. They were terribly positioned. They had terrible covers. They were not written well. And I had to tell them that and ask them to make the tweaks. So I thought, well, what if I could be there from the beginning? If they had the book idea and I could help them position it, they would write it, or I could get somebody to write it for them. And then I could come back and help them with the marketing. Like that way I could really do a good job. And that's how, Leaders Press came along. Then there was a matter of what's the niche? Who will you be doing this for? So to me, it was a no-brainer that it's going to be business people, because I love business, always, studied it, always enjoyed it. And during that mastermind, I remember I thought, well, what could it be called? Leaders Press. Well, let's see if the URL is available. I checked it somewhere like a GoDaddy or something. And I was like, well, how does Leaders Press sound? And Dean said, I can't believe the URL is still available. Get it now. So I got it right then and there. And, that same year, that was towards the end of the year, that same year, we already started working on a first book for clients. And now, like 4 years later, we're a 7-figure business. So it was a good idea to go to London.
Now, those first clients you had, how were they finding you? Were they saw your book? Was it social media? I mean, where were they finding you originally, those first clients?
We would reach out to them.
Okay.
Yeah, and our main platform has been since the beginning LinkedIn.
Okay, so was it yourself with your team reaching out to them saying, "Hey, have you ever thought about writing a book?" Or what was that sales pitch? Do you recall?
Yeah, well, the way we got started was we invited them to be part of an anthology for free, where we would interview them and put that anthology together and launch it. So they had an opportunity to be in a book without any expense. And when we would interview them at the end, we would say, hey, well, have you thought about doing your own book? We could, do a whole book for you. And that worked. But, after a while, it stopped being, we did that for 3 years, I think. Yeah. Wow. So this year, we just continued this. And we have much more sophisticated lead generation strategies right now.
Okay. And you talked about the ghostwriter, getting a ghostwriter. How do you find good ghostwriters? Was it their website, was putting ads out there, word of mouth, or what was your process?
It's not very easy. It's not easy to find a good ghostwriter. We look at the various websites that are out there, like try to find somebody off of Upwork or FreeUp and then have them come on board and be part of our team. Or just keep our eyes open and see if somebody writes a really good piece somewhere. We might reach out and say, hey, have you considered, writing something else too? So we're constantly on the lookout for good ghostwriters. It's, I think, the most difficult position to fill in our company.
Well, I mean, building a company, because one thing when you're writing your books by yourself is another thing to lead people. And probably it's a lot different than when you were building your brand in elementary school. I mean, how was the process like of being a leader, doing the hiring process, having those hard talks? What was that process like for you?
It's really exciting because I started 2017 was myself, an assistant who then also started interviewing, and the ghostwriter. Now we're like 30 people. So at the beginning, I was the salesperson, and I was the lead gen person, and I was the marketing person, and I was the person replying to my emails and doing my LinkedIn, just doing everything. Now I don't do any of that. Now my job is to make sure it's done. So it's a huge mindset shift. It's going from I have full control over everything and full responsibility because I am doing everything to I trust this person to do it. I trust this person to lead their team to achieve my goals. I know what motivates this person, what inspires them, how I can make sure they do their best work. So it's a completely, my job description now is completely different from what it was 3 years ago when I was still CEO of them. It's the same position, it's a different job description.
And now you said that you know what inspires them, you know what gets them, kind of pushes them, what keeps them going. How do you know that stuff? What's your process like to find that information?
Well, I talk to my team members. I have 5 that directly report to me, and I ask them these questions. I want to know, like, so, like, what is important to you? Is it the freedoms, the free time? Is it, the money? Like, if we're going to achieve common goals, how would you like to be rewarded? So I want to know these things from them. I think it's the communication is what really allows us to work well. And if we've had people leave, what I see, what I can, it's usually just lack of communication. People who are not expressing what's important to them, or maybe expecting others to read their minds. Like, no, you have to speak up. You have to say what you need. You need more free time. You need time off. You need more money. You need more support. You need more training. You need to feel included. You want to do daily huddles. So when people speak up, and when I create an opportunity for them to speak up, then I know it's going to work out. So now for me, it's leading the team. So really, from becoming almost one woman show to, much more of what a leader is.
Was that process of getting that mindset together, was that difficult? Did you have help in that, or did that kind of work through? How did you get there?
It was pretty organic because it happened from scratch. I wasn't transported from being an intern to this place here today.
Yeah.
I think the things that really helped was being in various masterminds and groups of entrepreneurs who are more successful than I am, and to hear them speak and share their thought process. That is huge.
I mean, a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, it's not always the positivity. Was there any kind of like heartache, headache, adversity that you feel that you kind of really went through the process?
Yeah, there's usually something going on. At a very young stage, when we were still 3 people and we were ghostwriting our first books, our ghostwriter left. And it was pretty, cold turkey, like, I'm gone. And, that was not easy. So, we really had to find somebody equally good, because that person was really good, really fast, and also understand what happened. Why did that happen? How can we prevent that from happening? How can we understand if our team members will stick for the long term? So that was a big learning experience. We of course managed to find another person and keep our clients happy, stall for a while. But it was a big blow. Anytime a team member leaves is difficult. So now we have developed contingencies. So we know that if this person for any reason leaves, we have backup. We have another person that can take over. So almost for any role, it's possible to really quickly divide that person's responsibilities between the team member, for almost everybody. Not for everybody, but unless the whole team decides to leave altogether, I think we're in a pretty good place.
At that point in time when you lost that ghostwriter, was there ever a moment where you go, maybe I should go back to writing and take care of this file, or take care of these files?
No, I was never that good.
Oh,
as a writer as she was. So, like, it was never a consideration for me to actually do the writing, because that's just not my forte.
I got you. Well, if we were talking, Alinka, let's say in 5 years from now, I mean, where do you see yourself? Where do you see your business going?
5 years from now. 5 years from now, I wouldn't mind leading an 8-figure business. That would be pretty exciting. Probably with a team that's, 2 or 3 times larger than now. I don't think if lifestyle wise, anything would change much. I'm a pretty balanced person, and I think I have good boundaries, and my team and clients respect those. So I want to keep that balance in place. I think it's important. So I think I want to, stay like have. If we talk again in 5 years, you might see a similar background. I already, I like the life that I've built already, but I'm excited for more to create more, and more experiences, more things that you remember when you're older.
Do you see the book industry changing at all in those 5 years?
In 5 years, I'm sure there's going to be more audiobooks, because
Okay.
those are, that part of the market has been growing for a while. I don't know how much VR might actually come into this space. I mean, there are talks about VR coming into, virtual reality coming into different spaces. I don't really see it so much in the publishing space in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next 20 years, that's going to be a completely different story. There's something uniquely special about paperback books, paper. Like, we have all this digital technology, and the first thing our clients ask, or, when they're still at the sales calls, are, when will I get the paperback? Will I get a paperback? Like, they want to touch it. They want to give it away. No matter, it's just different to have a file on your phone and or to send somebody a file to their computer, and to actually be able to wrap something, put a ribbon on it, give a present, write a dedication on the first page. So I think that's going to stay. Like, people still read paper newspapers. So I think books are going to stick around. Like, paperback books are going to stick around no matter how advanced the technology gets, and they might become even more valued the more advanced we get.
Mm. Well, I'll finish off with this question: if you were talking to your younger self, that little Alinka that started her newspaper in elementary school, is there any advice that you would give her to better that brand or make it smoother, or any kind of mindset you give her?
When I was like, I think even smaller, like 7 maybe, I remember having this thought: what am I going to be like when I'm 20 or when I'm 30? I remember I was thinking that, what type of person am I going to be? Where will I be? And so it's really interesting to come back. The thought, I would just say, keep going. Like, just keep going. You've got this. Like, ask questions, have the curiosity, believe in yourself, and vision, and vision and believe, and keep going. I think it'll be pretty easy like that.
Yeah, I think, believe. And I think everyone listening right here, there's so many great nuggets that I think Alinka brought up, as the idea of just having kind of positivity. Don't over stress out about something. If a failure happens, look at it as a positive. I think one of the quotes that you said was, when you lost in that horseback riding event, or horse riding event, was that because you lost and the other person won, right, they're not going to have the ability to learn anything from it. And I was like, that. A lot of people right now probably would listen to that and they go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't get first place." But the way you looked at it, you churned that way you looked at it. Thank you, Alinka, for being on the Road to Growth podcast. If someone's listening and they want to basically build a book, they want to reach out to you, what's the best way of them getting more information about the process?
Mm-hmm. The best way is to go to leaderspress.com/discover, and then you'll go through a 1-minute quiz to see what type of book is best for you. And you'll also get an audiobook of my guide, Outsource Your Book, because I bet you're listeners. So you'll enjoy the listening part of it. So that's leaderspress.com/discover.
Fantastic. And that information, the link is in the show notes. So please click that. Please subscribe, please share, and go find Alinka. Bye, everyone.